We are here today in the StoryYo studio discussing the trends and the future of B2B sales today. My guest of today is Hanneke Vogels. Welcome, Hanneke.
Thank you.
Can you tell me one thing about yourself that nobody knows but should know about you?
Oh, wow. That's a very, very complicated question. The one thing that nobody knows is that I like to do afternoon naps, because after an afternoon nap, you just really got to spike in brain activity and get going again.
So you just go for lunch and you take a nap?
I love to take naps, yes.
And how long? How long is the nap then?
20 minutes max.
Do you actually time that?
Yeah, I put on an alarm, otherwise I'll sleep for an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, and then the rest of the day is gone.
Exactly.
Oh, this is interesting. Wow. So you are the founder of Strives.
Yes.
Your big passion is sales tech, B2B sales and sales tech. You wrote a book, which is called Sales Tech as well. Can you tell me a bit more on how this big passion of you about sales tech actually came to life?
Well, it's actually two passions. It's sales and tech, and both started at a pretty young age. And I think that tech started a little bit younger than sales. Let me explain. So when I was about 8, my grandpa brought in an old computer from him into our house. It was a Commodore 64. And I really liked to play with it. I did games, but it also was one of the first that did assignments for school on it. And when I was about 14, I started my first job in sales. It was like a side job next to school. And from that moment on, I've always been in sales job. I've sold subscriptions for TV on the phone. I worked in retail. Yeah. And by the time that I was 22, 23, I started in B2B sales. And that whole sales thing got me hooked. Because it's so complicated, there's so much to learn, and everything that you think that you know might be entirely different in the next deal. So sales got me hooked because it's so complex, and it's working with people. There's challenges every time, and tech was always there helping me through. I was curious about it, about how it worked, not like how it worked in the system, but what I could do with it. And by the time that I started like really going well in B2B sales, I've used tech and processes to make my work easier. And later on, when I started running teams, I did exactly the same thing, helping them speed up and be more successful with process thinking, with using software to really speed up their work. So for me, sales and tech, and sales tech itself is a combination of two very big loves, from my point of view, in my work, and combining it just makes it even bigger. Yeah. There's so much to learn, so much to do.
So you touched upon the complexity of sales. I mean, then, like years ago in that time, do you think that the complexity of sales, and especially B2B sales, has changed a lot? Is that evolving now? Because I feel we're in this kind of massive transformation when it comes to B2B sales. And I'm curious if you see and feel the same thing.
I'm not sure. So everybody's talking about the world's transforming and everything. And in a way it is, but it's always been. Is it more complex today than it used to be? Yeah, I think it is. But it's because it's more crowded. So every step, every task in the sales process is not the right word, needs to be done top level. Yeah. To get to the heart of your customer. It, like, from your outreach to how you present your proposal, to how you negotiate, how you do your conversations, what you need to think about, what you need to ask. Buyers have a complex reality as well, because the lack of trust for sales. So I think that the complexity in general is bigger, and that also presses us to change our ways.
And do you think that the buyer is purchasing differently, especially when you look at it from a top of funnel or early on in the problem definition stage?
If you take a really big step back, I don't think so, because he's always been a buyer has always been looking for information, and he used to do that to talk to people and it used to be a lot of salespeople, and now he doesn't need the people anymore. Well, at least the salespeople, he doesn't need that anymore. He really needs to, he really uses the internet and peer groups. And those peer groups can be all over the world. I'm in a WhatsApp group with 500 people. It's like from all over the world. Those things can happen. So for buyers to get their information, don't need to talk to salespeople anymore. So that did change, but their need for information didn't change. They just look for it in different ways. Yes.
I think that might make it more complex for sales to get a seat on the table.
Yes. I think that for sales, it's the last 5 years have been gruesome to get to the table. And that's because everybody's so loud. Do you look at your mailbox? Look at how many messages are in there, people trying to sell to you
Especially
directly.
salespeople, I was going to say, are very loud.
Yes, salespeople, marketing people are very loud. So if you're a buyer, you need to meddle through all of that, whether it's LinkedIn or X or all of the internet pages, Googling it, now using ChatGPT to help you find your way. Look at your mailbox. It's, as a buyer, you have you get a lot of information. As a seller, you need to understand that getting through all of that really means that you need to step up your game.
I mean, because you get all these standard messages, right? I mean, it's
this
horrifying.
Email finds you well.
Yeah. Yes. I've looked at your profile and we think you're a great match.
That one's good too. Yes.
It's all the standard stuff coming in, right?
Yes. Spray and pray.
Yeah. Do you think that's still the strategy for a lot of people? Do they miss the customer centricity that is really needed to touch customers?
To really understand what your customer moves and what he or she needs, you really need to go deep in on it, like deeper than you think. You need to divide them because one group of 200, 300 people, that's too big because they already differ from each other.
Yeah.
So I think that if you don't know what you're doing, not exactly, you don't know you need to go that deep, and then you get generic messages. You get generic outreaches, like the same message for everybody.
Yeah.
To break through that, you need to take a step back and really go deep and really understand the differences between smaller groups. That's hard work.
Is this also where sales tech comes in?
Yes, because I don't even know if you can do it without the sales tech.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have to be complicated. There's LinkedIn Sales Navigator that most sales teams already use, or some people of them use it. So that's already sales tech. Your CRM is sales tech. But you can go way beyond with things like Clay to really dive deep into your target group and try to differ maybe even every message. There are tools out there that can differ every message. Tools like Luna.ai can do that.
But I think you mentioned a word that triggered me, CRM.
Mm-hmm.
I think the majority of the companies use it as a glorified Rolodex still.
Yes.
So why is tech, and then let's take CRM for example, why is tech still so complicated for a lot of the companies? Because I think they use it very inefficiently.
I think that most CRMs suck. They're not modern, not by any standard. They look exactly the same way as they did in the 80s. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Like, I think that there are about 10 to 15 good modern CRMs that hold the options like customizability, integrations, marketplaces, automations that can really help you speed up your sales. The rest can't do that. So yes, CRM is outdated in most cases or not being used the right way. They're not really leveraging all of the stuff that's in there. Because you need to go deeper. You need to understand how everything moves within your sales process, how people work, and then bring that back to the system. That takes a lot of time and effort. I don't think that companies spend enough time on really making it work for their teams.
So is it the fact that they don't spend enough time, or is it the fact that they don't know actually how to? So what is the biggest challenge you think that a lot of the companies have when it's around sales tech?
Well, sales leaders are in charge of that, right? And I don't think that a lot of sales leaders are actually techies that understand how you bring software into teams and make it part of their way of working. So I think it's a lack of knowledge. Is it complicated? I don't think so. Sales leaders are very smart people. So it's easy for them to learn. I wrote a book about it. I think if they read it, they're like, oh, okay, I need to take these steps. But they don't. So one thing, they want results too fast. So they move too fast.
Impatient?
Yes. Well, not only impatient, but the pressure on them is huge.
Yes.
So that's the other side of it. And the second thing is that their lack of knowledge on how complex IT can be if you're not selecting the right tool, or if you're asking for stuff that looks simple but isn't. Those two things make all of the tech usage within sales a little bit more complicated.
But I mean, oh my God, there's a shitload of tools out there.
Yes.
I mean, how do you get it sorted, right? How do you figure out what it is that you actually need?
It's a jungle. Luckily, there are companies that help sort the jungle.
Yeah.
So you have the sales tech landscape. If you Google it, you just get like a really good PDF from Vendor Neutral that shows you all of the categories, which already help you. But it starts at a different point. It starts with the task that you're trying to solve, and then you go to the right category to pick out the tools that match the task that you try to do.
So what do you feel is the first gain that companies can actually have when they start doing something with sales tech in an efficient manner?
I think that if you start to go beyond the CRMs, because pretty much everybody has one. If you don't, okay, that's fine. But then this whole talk's not for you. So if you look at where to start, you need to analyze what is killing my time and what's killing my deals.
Yeah.
Those two things help you, time killers and conversion bleeders. If you find the places in your sales process where that happens in the specific task, like maybe it's outreach, maybe it's the proposals, maybe it's the conversations that your salespeople have. If you find it, then you can see, okay, how can I fix that? What's there? And you want to look for the time killers first because they're easier to solve. For instance, if none of your salespeople are actually putting all of the information from conversations they have with customers in CRM, use a note taker.
I mean, this is a really, really big point I think you're mentioning, because I think the majority of the people are not putting in notes in Salesforce, to be honest, or in CRM, to be honest.
Well, that's hard. Because you have a meeting of an hour and you do your best writing it all down, but you can't figure it out all by yourself. And then you have to put it in the system, but the next thing is coming up.
Yeah.
And then that one needs a proposal and I'll do it by the end of the week. And then half of the information is already gone.
It's gone, yeah.
But if you use a note taker, like an AI tool, you can even use it in personal meetings.
And then you can use all that information for the buyer's journey.
It's being pushed to your CRM immediately right after the meeting. That makes it very easy.
And I think you mentioned like 3 areas, right? Is it outreach? Is it proposals? Is it like closing? I think the majority, every company touches of some of the topics, I think.
It's everywhere. It's like top of funnel, mid funnel, end of funnel. And there's 48 distinct tasks within sales, like if you do a full sales cycle, that a salesperson needs to do. And from those 48 tasks, 25 can already be backed by AI.
Wow. But I mean, that means something, right? That's really going to make an impact.
Yes, it's definitely going to make an impact. Yes.
So would you say that that is the first use case that a lot of the companies could actually start with? With AI?
AI is already everywhere, and it shouldn't be about the AI technology itself. It's about the task, not the tool. So AI is technology like the internet, like the smartphones that we have. It's a tool. It depends on how you want to work with that tool and what purpose it serves. So that's why I always say start with the task, not the tool.
Yeah.
And just, I think that the idea of tooling can help us speed up our work and make our work better, that should be used as fuel, as an inspiration, and then step back and take a look at what are you doing right now? How are you doing it? Is everybody doing it the same way? Then look at, okay, what should be market standard? What's the market standard? Can we go above and then fix that gap? And that's people, process, and technology. And technology can play a big role in that, but it's not the only thing.
So how important do you think the adoption part is? Because technology is one thing, but then there's adoption, right? Because you can put sales tech into play, but people really need to start using it.
Yes. There's two sides to adoption, because if you want people to actually work with the tool, you need to work on adoption. If it's a tool that runs in the background, they don't even need to know.
Then
they
it's
don't
the process.
See the effect.
Yeah.
So if you look at most of the tools and how it's being adopted, then we have an issue, because we think adoption starts as soon as we have the tool in place. But that's too late. The adoption starts at the moment you're doing your problem analysis. You need to give people a seat at the table. Have your sales team join in on the conversation on what's happening, what is the actual problem, and what's the route we want to solve it. How do we want to solve it? Let them be on the table when you're selecting the tool, when you're demoing them, when you're testing them. If you do that and have them help decide on how it's configured and how it should work in the end, then the actual training on how to use the tool is half of the work.
So why do you think that that's so difficult for companies?
Well, if you have a lot of sales teams, you have a lot of people. You want them all to join the conversation. That takes time.
Yeah.
I think that it's time well spent. But it requires that you leave your boardroom, talk to the people, and have them join the conversation, and then figure it out together. That just takes more time than when you do it by yourself in a small group.
Is that time or is that fear?
Maybe a little bit of both. Mostly time. There's a tremendous pressure on sales leaders to move fast.
Yeah.
So as soon as they have a go fix this, they want to solve it as fast as they can.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit of fear because, well, if you invite people to the table, they have opinions.
I was going to say they're going to have an opinion.
Salespeople are very opinionated, which is nice and good, but that slows down the process.
So do you think, because we touched upon the magical word AI, right? Do you think that AI is accelerating sales tech at this point in time?
Well, yes. Because if I look at the interest in sales technology, when I started Strives in 2020, they knew CRM and they knew there was a lot that they could fix, but they weren't that interested. And in 2022, in November, ChatGPT came out in a version that everybody could work with it and it made sense. And that sparked a debate. And now we're even further along that line. I launched my book, Sales Tech, in Dutch and in English. The AI progression is going insanely, in an insane speed.
It's huge, right?
It's huge. Yeah. AI agents are coming up. That means that you can't hide anymore. It's the same thing as it was with the iPhone coming out. That was big too. And everybody was in the hype and was like, but it actually made a difference for us. If you look at the app stores and everything, what we have, whether you're using an Apple or a Samsung or whatever phone, that's the standard now.
Yeah.
And AI will be the next standard. It's crawling in everywhere.
I mean, it's here to stay, right?
It's here to stay, but it's already everywhere. And people are like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, if you watch Netflix, there's AI is already helping them.
Yeah.
And not just by suggesting, they already use AI to translate their series. They mimic the mouth of the different languages. You can watch a show in Danish and in Dutch and in English, but the mouse will be correct.
Yeah.
That's what Netflix already doing.
And that's weird because if you actually look at it very closely, you see there's something off. I get a little disorganized from it.
Yes, but that will be better very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. It's getting closer and closer. But also in your day-to-day work, within mobile phones, it's already getting integrated. You can't hide from it.
So when you look at the sales process, the sales cycle, where do you feel that AI can make the biggest impact?
I'd say everywhere. And nowhere. It really depends on how you're leveraging it.
Yeah.
So do you know what you need to ask? What's the standard that you're going for? So if you give a junior sales ChatGPT and say, go craft me some good outreach messages, you'll get some crappy shit.
Because you ask the wrong questions, right?
Because they're asking the wrong questions and they're not going deep enough.
Yeah.
If you give a top SDR AI tooling, they will go, wow, they can go 3 times, 4 times as fast, but also they can touch more people. They can have a better conversion rate. So there's top of funnel is the most mesmerizing, where I'm saying don't put AI in the customer interaction itself. You can start a conversation using AI, but there's a human that needs to be in the mix for that. But every of those 48 tasks eventually will be backed by AI or being done by AI.
Because I think the customer interaction is really important in building that trust and relationship with the customer.
Especially in the more complex B2B situations. Personal interaction is important to build that trust, to show your knowledge. If you're selling a product that doesn't really require human interaction, go sell it in a web shop.
Yeah.
And yes, you can have a lot of AI in there, but if your product or service requires human interaction, you shouldn't be looking at AI doing the conversations.
Which I think mostly is the case in when it comes to more complex B2B sales, right?
Exactly. Yes.
I have a couple of instant questions for you.
Oh, gosh.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay, go ahead. Now I'm curious.
And please give the answer that first comes to mind.
Yeah.
I've got 5 for you.
Okay.
So data-driven or based on experience?
Oh, that one's mean.
I know. That's why I drafted them.
I'd go for experience. Yes. You want me to elaborate on it?
No.
Okay.
We can do that later because I want to know. All-in-one tech or best of breed?
Best of breed, no doubt.
Automated lead generation or maintaining personal touch? Well, we kind of touched upon that one already, but
personal touch.
Strict governance on tools or flexibility?
Ooh, depending on where you put the government, but I'm flexibility. Yes.
This is tough, right?
This is really tough. Those are good ones.
So, forcing tool adoption or only using what users are willing to support?
Ooh. Only using what users are willing to support.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Now I can elaborate.
Yes. That was the last one, so.
Okay, good. The thing is that if you have tooling that's exceptionally well and has a good user interface, you don't need to force adoption. They will use it. If you give them a seat at the table, when you're selecting the tool, they will use it. You don't need to force anything. I don't believe in forcing. I tried to force my kids to do something. It doesn't work.
That's very recognizable.
It won't work with grown-ups either. So no enforcement here. Explanation, helping them get used to it, understanding that sometimes it's hard, yes, but no force.
But don't you think that it's impossible to make everybody happy?
No.
You really think that you can get everybody on board?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, you intrigue me.
Well, there's people that have their ideas about tech, and there's always a small percentage that will never make that move. But everybody's super busy. Everybody's really fighting for their clients. They're all working so hard, well, at least most of them.
Yeah.
They're all looking for smarter and better. So I don't have to force anybody. They will make that move as soon as I explain it well enough.
Yeah. And if they see the value, if it helps them to work smarter, more efficient, work better.
Exactly. But here's the trick. A lot of these tools are being selected by the wrong people. A lot of these tools are being used in a way that it's not helping sales. Look at CRM. It's mostly a management control system. No wonder nobody wants to work with it, because why should I work with it when it doesn't bring me any value? You need to bring the value.
Yeah. It's time consuming for a lot of sales.
Exactly. And it's only for the management reports. So why? I understand that. But as soon as you leverage these tools in a way that it makes their work easier, so they only have to fill in one thing and the rest is being done in the background, they're happy campers.
I mean, and that's also where the magic comes in with the buyer's journey, with the sales cycle, with I'm just so amazed by the fact that I feel that the majority of the companies are still not using that or leveraging that.
Because the implementation for them is something they can't oversee, and it costs a lot, and it takes time for it all to really bring the value that they're looking for.
But I mean, that's the short-term thinking versus the long-term thinking, right?
Exactly, yes.
I think it's really interesting. So data-driven or based on experience? You said experience.
Yes, because data only shows what you've been doing in the past. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think that data is very important, especially if you want to work with AI, you need to have a lot of data. But I think that the experience and the touch and the instinct of a salesperson really matters.
So is it then a bit of the combination? If you leverage the data, because you can do predictions based on data as well, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's a little bit of both. It's data as your base, and then in individual cases, you give the seller the room to use their instinct
and their experience.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the next big thing in sales?
That one's easy. That's like super easy. That's AI agents.
Yeah?
Yes. Little nifty tools that do repetitive work for you. A lot smarter than all the automations that are out there.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a massive move. You see all these tools popping up that can help you with it. They're either focused on doing one thing really good, or have a platform where you can build your own. That thing, the next 2 to 3 years will be totally about agents.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I started testing a tool this weekend, Sintra, which has like this actual body figures in the tool, and it actually feels like you because they visualize a person as well.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yes.
And that's even in like really early stages, but
yeah, I really want to have those assistants. And what you will see is that you have one really intelligent one at the front where you can talk to and ask questions like, give me that information. I want to start out that. And then you have all of these little agents that will do the work for you. For instance, if you can't connect your proposal tool with your CRM, they will make that bridge and they will create an offer for you. So you just say in your CRM, okay, start creating the offer. They will go pick up all the information that they need. They will put it in the offer. They will select the right template. They will select the right chapters, information. They will already write something for you. Then you only have to check.
It's amazing.
Yes.
So I'm an optimistic person, right? So my first impulse is, oh my gosh, you can do so much more, sell so much more. But I think that some of the sales leaders or companies actually might feel that they can fire people because of the fact that they're automating a lot. Do you think that's going to be the case?
That's definitely going to be the case. So if you're good at sales, you have nothing to worry about, because we'll still need your brain. We still need your ability to interact with customers. But I also see a lot of people working in sales calling themselves sales, but they're being order pickers. They're not the ones kicking open doors.
They're catching the bluebirds.
Yes, they're handed an opportunity when it's already almost sold. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that that's not work that needs to be done by a person. You'll see the top ones being able to take that one over. So would we need less salespeople? I don't think so. we'd still need the same amount,
Yeah.
but you need to do better. You need to step up your game.
Or do you think that the roles are going to change? Is it going to be different? Are we going to see new roles popping up in the sales team structures?
Definitely. I think that the GTM engineer or the sales ops, those will be added. Sales support will mostly vanish. And account executive, SDRs and everything, they will diminish a bit. It will be, I think, 25 to 30% less.
So if there's one thing you can give as a takeaway for our viewers today, what would be that one thing? It can be a lessons learned, like really a tip or a trick or anything you want to share.
I think that start with the task, not the tool. That's like the first tip I'd like to give everybody. Have a look at your sales process and see where it bleeds. Where you're losing time. Time killers are easier to solve than conversion bleeders, but where does it hurt? Start with that. Have a look at it. Dive into what tech's out there. Start trying it out. That is going to help you to see how much time you can save and just start working with it. Try it.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. And if you want to follow more of our high-performance sales tips and tricks, make sure you hit the button and follow us for our next episodes.